Hey guys, welcome back to Honkai Star Rail. In today's video, we're checking out a tier list that has been updated for Trailblazer level 50 for pushing Memory of Chaos. Now, before we get into it, if you're looking at the general game, play whatever character you want. It doesn't matter. Like the whole campaign, simulated universes, with free-to-play stuff, you can clear absolutely everything. It doesn't matter. The only thing this applies to is really going to be the Memory of Chaos. And once we all get to full level 80, maxed out traces on all our characters, it's probably not going to matter that much anyway. I know some people don't like tier lists and stuff like that. Don't click on it, I guess, but I wanted to go through this because I'm really curious on this stuff, and I've been watching a lot of Billy and the CN players because they are giga whales and they were clearing 3 stars at level 60. Like those guys are ridiculous, but I like watching where the meta goes because it's just something interesting inside the game. When it's a PvE game and it's got no competition, it's always fun to just throw a little bit of meta into the mix. So that is that disclaimer. Now, like I said, this is based on pushing for Memory of Chaos clears, not 3 stars, just to clear it, with Trailblazer 50, meaning your character's level cap is 70, and that's what this is based on. Also, 4 stars are around 2 Eidolon where they've been ranked, and 5 stars are based on 0 Eidolon. Now, over here they've done a blog post on Pridewind talking about the changes, but I'll leave that linked in the description. You guys can check out all the changes that they talk about, but in general, that's what we're looking at. Now, I'm going to go through and talk about them. And talk about why these changes have occurred. The first thing a lot of people will know from the Pridewind tier list is that the rankings have changed. There's no more of that double S tier. Arguably, you could have dropped the S+, but I just look at it as top tier, second tier, third tier, fourth. It doesn't really matter to me. But essentially what they've done is they've put in this tier the best out of each role. So the best DPS, the best support, the best offensive support, the best healer, and the best defensive support. And that's pretty much what this tier is going to be the best in slot for that role. And that sort of makes sense. Now, a big change you'll notice is Yang Qing has come up. And basically what's happened was Yang Qing is an absolute savage. He's got really good break potential, and because he can freeze as well, he helps you survive, because we're in the stage of the game at the moment where, like I said, we're level 70, so we're not at level cap, and what people are trying to do is just clear Memory of Chaos, not actually 3-star it. So using the freeze as a break is really strong because it allows you to survive, and that is a big thing. Plus his follow-up attacks deal a lot of toughness shred as well. And on top of that, he's just got really solid damage. So that's why he has moved up. And also there is a lot of ice weak enemies. I think floor 10 has one of the fire dudes that you've just like, both enemies are basically weak to ice, so ice is just like the ideal one. Now the thing with the caveat with Yang Qing is you really need to protect him. So Japard is the commonly best pick choice, but then you can also use Trailblazer Fire with the Trailblazer Fire taunting on the opposite side of the team as Yang Qing, but you can also use a Clara, and this is something really cool that I'm absolutely wrapped about when we look into Clara, because the way that the players started using her on CN made me so happy. Before the game launched, I always talked about, I felt like Clara had a unique kit whereby she could be used as a team battery to generate skill points whilst dealing decent damage and also taunting away from her teammates, and that is the way they're using her. So Clara as a DPS in the Memory of Chaos at the moment would probably be around an A tier, but Clara as a tank supporting a Yang Qing goes up here into S tier. It's a very interesting thing, but the way they're using her is fantastic. So essentially, I haven't been able to see gear sets that they've been putting on her. I'm really curious to see the gear sets and the stats that they put on her though. But in general, she can be used to taunt away so that Yang Qing can do her thing. The great thing about her is that because when she uses her ultimate, she gets that high taunt value, meaning that the enemy is more likely to attack her. They attack her, she gets energy from the attack, she gets energy from her revenge, and then she can keep that taunt up permanently, meaning that she's always protecting Yang Qing. Now, it's not a genuine taunt, it's an increased chance to be attacked, and you know, sometimes you might lose out on that chance, but in general, it's an absolutely cool strat. I absolutely love it. Now, Trailblazer Fire is that same thing where it pairs with Yang Qing, but you have to use skill points, and that's what makes Clara so useful, is the lack of skill point usage. Also, she can AoE break physical, but there's not a ton of physical in the high floors from what I've seen anyway. So that is Clara and Yang Qing covered. And then we move into the supports. Tingyun and Welt, basically a lot of CM players have Welt maxed out. They have everyone maxed out. And at E6, he's like absolutely crazy. But in general, he's just a support. Now, I think, honestly, if I had to guess, at the moment, because we're still in the phase of trying to clear it, not 3-star it, Welt really shines. Now, he does offer damage increase and stuff like that, but I've mentioned this before, that Welt doesn't allow you to increase your cycle order. He doesn't slow the cycle, he only slows the enemies. And that's where I think when we go into like trying to 3-star it, perhaps Asta comes up further, because her speed buff will allow you to actually bypass turn cycles as well as be faster than your enemy. Now, the thing with this is as well is when people are at this stage trying to push through Memory of Chaos, you're not like that. People don't have the best gear and stuff like that. It's still like very much in the leveling process of the account, meaning I think Asta's one that's really going to shine once we get better gear, and that's where she'll have better energy efficiency and everything like that. Then I mentioned Trailblazer Fire used really well across the board as a tank, but you know, just as a shielder in general, good splashable unit. Natasha up in S tier because she is the only other healer, and she actually is quite useful, got the cleanse, got everything else, so she goes up here. Then we jump down to this A-B tier. Like I said, I feel like Asta could move up. I think these two are it's gonna depend on what bosses come, but at the moment in the meta, they're not as necessary for some of the bosses, so that's why they're down here in A tier. And March, my hot take on March is if you don't have Japard, March is like an amazing unit. Like, so she's like your only other option, so you build her. But because a lot of the players clearing it at the moment have Japard, it makes March less of a priority. One, they're not gonna build her because they've already got an ice tank unit. It kind of defeats the purpose, or it's like it's not your top priority to do. So they're just using Japard and Trailblazer Fire. But like I said, if you're missing Japard, March is a really good unit. She's got that freeze capabilities as well. She's another unit I think will shine a lot more. Sorry, my head's in the way. She's another unit that I think will shine a lot more once we get better gear as well. I have these theories about like energy cycling March, just freeze enemies flat out with effect hit rate and stuff like that. I don't know. It could be another one of my sheer copium takes, but we'll see how she goes. I think she is still a fantastic unit for free-to-play players. And as a free-to-play player, like in the Memory of Chaos, I think I've cleared 3 floors with 7 units so far. I find March to be a better single defensive unit in a team than the Trailblazer Fire in most cases, just because he's got that chunky shield. It's got a 4-turn duration. She can keep it up on 3 units and just cycle it through them. So she's really solid in general. Pella, not much to add on Pella from last time. Still good. You got the defense shred. You got 3 defense shreds that stack when you include the light cone and her technique and her ultimate. Really, really solid. She's got a strip, and that's pretty much what she does. She's a skill point generator unless you need a strip, and then she gets rid of some stuff. So that's pretty much her purpose. When we look at the DPS, I feel like, so Saval's gone up. The reason Saval is good is, and if we look in this A tier, you'll see that the whales, like the mega whales doing this stuff, the 3 units that they'll sometimes tech in is Saval, Asta, and Pella. Now, Saval, for a very key reason, is because when we look at some of those robot bosses, especially the fat one that summons the hands, or also for Svarog, she is like just tailor-made for those fights with the way she has her AoE. She can ult really fast. She's got amazing break capacity. She's just really good for that. So even players with like every character will tech her in certain situations against specific enemies to get her going. So that's why she's been moved up a tier. The Sushang, Hook, and Dan are more units that if you don't have the better DPS, you got to kind of sub between them to try and match the weaknesses of the enemies. But when you've got something like Zila who can essentially just ignore it and just kill things, it doesn't stress too much, you know, then you take whatever one covers the element that you're looking to cover. Then we jump down into Himiko, QQ, and Sampo. I still have high hopes for QQ. I think Sampo is going to be an absolute beast. Sampo and QQ, I think they're both 2 that need to get to E6 to really shine. Like honestly, E4 for both of them to start shining, and then E6 for them to excel, and I think they will really do that. I just don't think anyone's got them there and putting the effort into them at the moment. And then Himiko is one, I think, once again, I have my theories that when we start looking at 3-star, maybe she does come more into the mix. I don't know, but I'm definitely thinking if they change the roster of the Memory of Chaos and we bring in that deer unit that summons all the trees, I think that is when Himiko is going to be like the top tier unit for some of those fights. So it's going to be fight dependent, kind of like how Saval's like just absolutely amazing for those robot fights. Himiko is going to be amazing for those tree fights is the way I'm foreseeing it. And then we drop down to Arlen, Trailblazer, and Herder. I just don't really have the position at the moment. Arlen, multiplier is too low, simply that. Trailblazer physical, you're sort of it's a wasted unit to build, in my opinion, because most people, like even the whales, are building Trailblazer Fire. So if you build this unit, you're building an extra unit, but not having an extra unit at your disposal because you got to take one out to put it in. That's the problem with the Trailblazer in general. And then we've got Herder, who just, you know, she's good for clearing trash, and that's pretty much it. But in the Memory of Chaos, she doesn't quite have what it takes to excel. So that is what we're looking at in the tier list. Like I said, just an update on the current meta of where people are pushing. I think we'll get an update again when Jing Yuan comes in and everyone's up to level 80 cap. And then we'll get a more idealistic view of trying to 3-star the content. But anyway, guys, I'm still pushing it on my free-to-play. I need one more unit to build to really have a crack. Like I said, I've pushed 3 floors so far. Maybe I'll get the 4th tonight, but in general, with 7 units and all being 4-stars, 0 Eidolon with free-to-play Lycones, it's pretty tough, I'll tell you what. But anyway, guys, that is going to be it for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.